is the Colts versus the Patriots game review. Week 5, Thursday night football, and it's another win for them. They seem to be back on track. Seems to have gotten over their little slump or whatever, and they're starting to look like the Patriots. A lot of people thought that the addition of, the return of Julian Edelman would bolster that offense, and it showed. The Patriots officially have weapons. Last game wasn't a fluke. The Patriots officially have weapons. It's looking like a completely and I said it. Come week 5, the offense is going to look different. Once they got those big plays out there, the offense is going to look different. All right. Score was 38-24, and to be honest, the score shouldn't have looked that close. To be real with you, it should have been like 40-something-10. Cause I'll get into that later, but let's just say the score shouldn't have been that close. First thing I want to go over is offense. For the most part, the offense was good. They was clicking. They were converting on third downs, driving down the field. First two drives of the game, they drove the ball down the field and were able to find themselves into the end zone. First play was to Cordero Patterson. Nice little toss to the side, and he just ran into the end zone. And second play was a Brady touchdown dive at the goal line, which put them up early, 14-0, and forced the Colts to have to try to climb back. By halftime, it wasn't even close. It was 24-3. Colts had only managed to get a field goal. Patriots forced them to punt a lot, which they were able to do last week. So that's saying something about the defense at least. But let's get back on offense. Offense, for the most part, a lot of good plays. The offensive line is, for the most part, doing its job, at least at protecting Brady. Now, they weren't too good on the run. They did a nice job as far as the run goes, but not as nice as they did last week. But it was a nice job all around for the offensive line. They did manage to protect Brady. They kept him from being on the ground too much. He only got knocked down, I think, once that whole game. No sacks for the second straight week, I think. So they managed to keep him up on his feet, which if you keep Brady on his feet, he's going to be able to make plays. Another touchdown pass was to James White, which seems to be one of his regular targets. Fantasy owners, if you do have James White and you're not starting him, I don't know what you're doing, because he's putting up points every single week he's playing. That's obviously a target of Brady's, who's going to get the ball at least 10 times a game. So if you're not starting him, start him. If you are starting him, keep him on there. Just keep him on there, because he's going to get the ball a lot more, and he's going to keep scoring. Another touchdown pass, which I have been waiting so long to see, was the touchdown pass, the 34-yard touchdown pass to Josh Gordon. Now, last game he got close. He converted third down, got stopped at the 3-yard line, at the 3-yard line. But man, this play on two defenders, like anything anybody said online, they were just comparing them to Moss. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We're not going to compare them to Moss, but that catch was Moss-like. That was a Moss-like catch. Two defenders in the end zone, deep pass, TD. And I'm predicting that that's not going to be the last time we see that type of connection. Especially if Josh is able to get more open on a lot of plays, then it's probably not going to be the last time we see that connection. Return to Julian Edelman, about what I expected. I didn't expect him to go off. Everybody expected him to go off and get all these yards. I didn't really expect that. I knew he was just going to bring another able body back to the offense and be a vital piece, which he was. Made some good catches. One catch he could have made that would have been a huge gain. He just slipped out of his hands and fell to the turf. But for the most part, he did okay. Bad parts, though. Chris Hogan had a pass that would have been a first down, but instead became an interception. And on the next offensive drive, Gronk did the same exact thing. The ball bounced out of it. I don't know if he got knocked in the shoulder or in the elbow or something, and the ball just bounced out of his hand. But the ball came out of his hands, which usually doesn't happen too much. And the same defender came by and snatched it and turned into another interception. So this is the second game in a row. Tom Brady has 2 interceptions. I mean, if you're looking at that, if you're looking at the stats just based off of that, you'll say something's wrong with Brady. But don't pay attention to the stats. Go back and look at the game, and you'll see why those occurred. Just not good. Just not good catches. Could have been great catches, but turned into horrible plays as far as the Patriots offense goes, and turned into interceptions. So those 2 interceptions should have some asterisks by them, but I wouldn't say that's Brady's fault. I would just put that blame on the receivers mostly for not hanging on to the ball. Defense. Now, for a good portion of the game, at least the first half, the defense did a very good job. They kept them out of the end zone. They kept them from converting on first downs a lot. They forced them to punt. It wasn't until the turnovers, which came courtesy of tip balls from the receiver's hands. It should have been first downs, but became tip balls, and gave the Colts momentum, unneeded momentum, and they were able to convert on those. They were able to capitalize on those mistakes and put them in the end zone. Now, still, the defense should be able to hold their end of the bargain. They shouldn't just, the offense turned the ball over again, so now we got to go back out there and try to defend. Against that weakened offense of the Colts, they should have been able to stop a couple of those drives. There was a couple of drives that they could have been at least should have been able to stop, but Andrew Luck found a way and moved the ball down the field. But the defense wasn't totally horrible the second half. They had, I believe, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, which kept the game from looking a whole lot worse. Jason McCourty had a nice fumble recovery, knocked the ball out, stripped the ball out, got it back. Jonathan Jones had a nice interception, little tip interception. Just nice plays all around from the defense. So they weren't completely horrible. They did what they had to do to get the ball back into Tom Brady's hands by forcing these turnovers. The pressure from the defensive line looked great again. From observing from last week onto this week, the pressure looked great. Trey Flowers definitely showing why he was missed those two games, because he is pretty much the best defensive player they have on that side. On that side of the ball, he's the best. And he's a real difference maker. Special teams. Now, wasn't a lot to see from special teams. Ryan Allen had another good punt where he pinned it on the 5-yard line. But they also gave up a big chunk of yardage on the punt return, which put them in line to give them their first touchdown score. So, I mean, you have to take the good with the bad. Mostly good as far as special teams go, but that was probably the only negative light that you saw as far as special teams. So, grades. Offense, I would have to give a B or B plus, only because even with the mistakes of Hogan and Gronkowski on those 2 plays, they were able to move down the field regardless, and even after those bad plays, they came back on the next drive and just marched down the field and just didn't give up when, you know, turnovers happen. So you want to see that. You want to see your team come back from turnovers. You don't want to see them just lose that momentum and then allow a team to steamroll and put up more points. You want to see them snap back quick and say, okay, that happened, on to the next play. Sony Michel. I'm liking the running from Sony Michel. I am liking this running game, man. 98 yards from Sony Michel. I was hoping they could have handed that ball off to him on that last drive that they attempted, and got at least got him like 2 more yards so he can break like 100 for the second straight week. I know it wouldn't have mean that much, but as far as like just overall yards produced by Sony Michel, you know, he ended up going over 100 anyway. So, but it would have been nice to see him get another 100-yard rushing game, especially since a lot of critics didn't think that he was as good as advertised, and some were even going so far as to call him a bust, which was ridiculous, considering that he had missed a good portion of the training camp, and due to that injury, he missed preseason. So, I mean, we had to give him the benefit of the doubt, and he showed why he was a first-round draft pick. He's definitely showing that he is starting for a reason. He is on there for a reason. They picked him up for a reason, and he's definitely showing why he's there. Defense, I would give defense I'll give him a B or B minus, almost close to a C, but because of the good defensive plays that they made, stripping the ball away and interceptions and find ways to get after the quarterback, I'm gonna go ahead and give him the B minus, whatever. I'm not gonna bring him down to a C. Only reason why I would even go towards giving him a C would be the points that they allowed later on in the game, which didn't really have to come anyway. They pretty much had that game in the bag. All they had to do was hold it together, and they could have easily got the ball back into the offense hands. But I'll just go ahead and give them a B because they did a good job. Special teams, besides the punt return that they allowed that pretty much gave the Colts a score, I would say B. I mean, they did all right job. I wouldn't give them a C because they didn't make too many mistakes. They had some good moments on special teams. So yeah, I'll give them a B too. So all around, just overall score for the whole team was a B. They did a nice job on offense, minus those 2 turnovers. They did a nice job on defense, even though they allowed scores. They, for the most part, were making plays. The defense was not only keeping them out of the end zone in other drives, but they were also making plays. So when a turnover happened on one play, that very next drive where the defense had to come in after the offense left, boom, turnover. So you got to sometimes you just got to take the good instead of just totally looking at the bad. And special teams pretty much did what special teams does. So that's really all I have for this team. Next week they have the Kansas City Chiefs, and as everybody knows, the Kansas City Chiefs have an explosive offense. So they won't be able to get away with a lot of things that they were able to get away with tonight. They were only able to get away with a couple of things they got away with tonight because the team that they were going against was so injury-ridden that it was hard for them to come back, and they were making an effort. So it's a lot of things that they can improve on, and they will have to improve on them before they face the Kansas City Chiefs, because if the Kansas City Chiefs are able to get interceptions like that, they are going to capitalize pretty much every time if they're not careful. So somebody's ringing the doorbell, so now I gotta go answer it. But this has been Good Game Reviews. This is Rakeem, and I'm out.